Goedenavond. Het is ondertussen 3 weken geleden dat we nog online waren door omstandigheden. Ja, helaas, het is zo. Maar we zijn terug. Dus, en de gasten die de afgelopen weken er niet bij konden zijn en waardoor we dus gemist hebben, die komen sowieso nog. Dus zij sluiten gewoon achteraan aan. Dus Alex and Cara will be joining us later on, after a few weeks. But at this point, we have a very special guest. It's Antony McCallum, and I'm pleased to introduce him. So here he is. Hi, Antony.
Hi there.
Good
Hello,
evening.
Belgium. Good evening.
So you're probably the only Scotchman involved in whiskey who is not in Scotland at this point.
Yeah, I believe so. Apart from Scottish people who live abroad,
Yeah.
you know, I've met a few.
And
Those who have already joined Brexit, but within Europe.
Okay, you have plans. We can talk about that later on. So you're in France at this point. You're traveling and making and do your job, of course, and selling lots of House of Macallan whiskey. You have been to Germany before?
Yeah, I was in Germany on Thursday for a whiskey dinner it was a sort of world premiere to present the Arbroath 700 releases.
Mm-hmm.
And before that was in Holland and Belgium.
Also. Oh, you have been to Belgium?
Yeah.
Okay.
But just to present them to the importer.
Okay. It's just Claudia and Dimitri and France. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. It's clear. When Dimitri is watching, I will come back to that later on. So, Antony, of course, Tertius. This is Anne, and that's very important. Before we started our broadcast, Antony, you told me something about taking care of COVID. What to do about COVID and when to do it, at what time. So please go ahead, say it.
I believe that, you know, from a medical point of view, the COVID virus is in your mouth, and that was a virologist in Germany that explained that, and that's why they take the swabs in your mouth. And the only way to kill it is to take alcohol, which is strong enough. So actually, if you take a good whiskey at 46% and above, it actually kills the virus. Obviously, you need to take good quality, because if you're taking like a vodka at 70%, then not only will you kill the virus, but you'll kill also your vocal cords. So you should be drinking something good to kill the virus. And as you know, the nose and the throat are linked. Now, I actually had COVID probably about a month ago. And you'll say, if I'm drinking whiskey regularly, then why did I catch it? But that was a different reason, because in Scotland, we have a lack of vitamin D. And because I wasn't able to holiday this summer, I didn't get my
daily dose,
vitamin D. So the doctor said, but I had a very, very mild version. It just felt like a cold. So I guess if I wasn't drinking good whiskey, you know, it would have hit me much harder. Mm-hmm. It just felt like, it's like, you know, temperature for a couple of days, but not even tired or exhausted, just kind of sort of hot and cold. And then the only thing it was worrying, then I lost my sense of taste and smell. Again, that could last for a long time. Within, I would say, a week, it started coming back. And within 3 weeks, I had recovered everything.
Okay.
So to test myself, I took a large glass of Lafroig. And then I said, yeah, I do have a problem, because I could only taste salt. Okay. I was like, really? Lafroig doesn't have any peat anymore?
That's a nice way to taste and to try it. I must say.
But now everything's back.
Okay, you're healthy again.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, we are here and talk about whiskey and not about awful disease of a virus. But you're in France at this point, and you said it before. You're making, or for you're selling, or however you can say it.
Presenting.
Yes, of course. It's a long day today. Presenting the new stuff, and can you tell us something more about it? Because I had this picture, but these are the normal ones.
Yes, these are the original ones.
Mhm.
So I decided this year to launch a special edition of the Art of Whisky. When I read last year that we were going to be celebrating in Scotland the 700th anniversary of the Declaration of Arbroath. Now, probably most people abroad have never heard of this declaration. It was what I knew about it, but I didn't know exactly the date. And what really rang to my ears was when they actually announced the date, and it's the 6th of April, 1320, that it was signed. And my birthday is the 6th of April.
Okay.
Oh, it actually happened on my birthday. So I said, that's an important date. And then, obviously, my birthday wasn't 1320. If not, I would have to be a vampire.
Yeah, you're looking good.
So the Declaration of Arbroath was actually not a declaration, it was a letter that was signed by the clan chiefs, including House of McCallum. So Malcolm, the clan chief of the McCallum clan, in 1320. And it was to reassert the independence of Scotland as a country at a time where William Wallace had been killed and sent across England with different parts of his body. So the King of England was wanting to get hold of Scotland, and then Robert the Bruce was claiming the throne of Scotland as well. So this declaration was to reassert the independence of Scotland vis-a-vis of the claim of the King of England. So it was an important date in Scotland's calendar as a country and as a nation. And unfortunately, with what happened this year with the virus, all the celebrations were cancelled.
Yeah.
So I pushed back. Normally, I wanted to have this released in April. I pushed it back now to September. So the 5 expressions have been launched. So the pink, the elegance, the warrior, the Mac of the Isles, and the McPeat. And I commissioned the 5 artists that are associated, or the 4 artists, because there's actually one that does 2, to create some art that for them represents their interpretation of the Declaration of Arbroath. Okay. So at the same time, I was helping the artists by buying some of their art during this period as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then as a special edition, it wasn't the standard whiskies. I also selected some special casks, and these are actually vintage editions for each of the products within the Art of Whisky.
When you say vintage, I think about older whiskies, so I presume they are quite old.
They're older, but not extremely old, so they're affordable.
Okay.
So I didn't go into the 20s, or they're actually between 10 and 13-year-old.
That's decent. That's decent. Yeah. You started way back in 1995. So, and you started out and had a gas of them, Gaelic Whisky Company.
Yes, exactly. So that was my first job moving from university, and I tried various whiskey companies, and then the Gaelic Whisky Company in Skye responded favourably, and I thought that's the best way actually to learn more is with smaller businesses, because you're more hands-on, and it was also a great experience to be spending time on the Isle of Skye, and also learning some Gaelic as well, because being a Gaelic whisky company, you had to be able to speak some Gaelic. Actually, when I just started, I got interviewed by the BBC Scotland Nangale, so the Gaelic version of the BBC. So I had to be able to answer questions in Gaelic, which is not my native language. Probably some of my ancestors spoke Gaelic, but in Glasgow, there's a new trend to speak Gaelic, but it wasn't my native language.
Okay, but you still talk it? You can still pronounce?
I can say a few words. Yeah.
A few words, okay. It's like most Flemish people talk a little bit French, like a little.
Yeah, my granddad taught us some bad words in Gaelic he had learned at work.
As usual. These are kind of words everybody knows in a foreign language.
Yes.
And then after your time with Gaelic Whisky Company, you started a new company. You didn't start a new company, you started working in a new company, and
yeah, just to come back to the Gaelic Whisky Company. So it was quite funny because when I was there was no bridge. You still had to get the ferry across the water to get to Skye.
Yeah.
And on the ferry, you used to get leaflets from everything you can see on Skye, from distilleries to woolen shops and so on. And there was a war between the distillery there, Talisker, and us, the whiskey company on Skye. So Talisker used to say on their leaflet, the only distillery on Skye, and our leaflet used to say the only whiskey company based in Skye. Because as you know, Talisker belongs to Diageo, and their headquarters is in London. So that was the sort of funny battle between the two companies.
Everybody was a winner in the end.
Yes.
Kinda.
And there, the interesting thing is that we were the first whiskey company to launch unchill filtered whiskies, which were unknown at the time. Yeah. There was already one of the sort of blended malts, which was Posh Goo, which means the black pot, so the illicit still in Gaelic. And that was already unchill filtered, and it was the first ever, blended malt or malt whiskey bottled unchill filtered. And when I was there, I launched the first ever unchill filtered blended whiskey. And the funny thing is, when I went round the distillers or the distillers to bottle it, and nobody wanted to bottle it. They said, "Are you crazy?" They said, "Your whiskey is going to be, cloudy, and consumers will reject it. The responsibility will be on us, and you'll ask us to take back the bottles." I said, "No." I said, "It can be done if it's done properly. It can be very clear, like any whiskey." So the only way to get it done, I went to see the people in Scotland who were already doing unchill filtered, and again, a good Scottish distillery in Campbelltown, Springbank, who were always bottling at 46%, so they didn't have to chill filtered. So I took it to them, and they said, "Yeah, we will do it for you." So I moved the bottling from Edinburgh to Campbell. Obviously, I wasn't bottling at 46, so there was a risk of cloudiness, but we did it at 43%, and it was fine. Obviously, if it's cold, you get some snowdrops, snowflakes in the bottle, but that was written on the back label, and then it comes back when the bottle is warm. But that was the first ever unchill filtered 43% whiskey in Scotland.
Okay. After your time with the Gaelic Whisky Shop, you started out with Een McCallum Distillery, 2000.
Yeah. But before that, I worked for. So I started my business, and then also worked for Alistair Hart, the Hart brothers.
Yeah.
And Alistair Hart used to be the ex-master blender of White Mackay, And so he taught me a lot of what I know. I'm very thankful because basically there's no school to be, to be a master blender and also learn how to pick the right cask and mature whiskey. You learn with the people who did the job before you. And Alistair was, a great resource to learn. He used to take me into the warehouses, show me the different casks, show me a good whiskey from a bad whiskey. And, it's thanks to him I know a lot of what I know today. And then obviously then through your own work, then you develop extra knowledge and extra experience within the job.
Yeah.
You're right. After that, at the same time, I was running my own business. I had started in '97, House of McCallum, and started developing some brands for some customers in the European markets.
And how did that work? Because it was not the same as you do now.
No, well, I developed one brand which is still in existence. I think it's been phased out, which was Dunvegan. So again, the inspiration came from my year in Skye. Obviously, Dunvegan is Dunvegan Castle. So the inspiration came from there to develop that brand, which was the first, my first independent bottling brand, which belonged to my customer in France, and then I had the distribution for other countries. Okay. And one of my suppliers was Ian McLeod Distillers for the casks, and when they saw this business plus some other brands had developed for these customers, increase in volume, then they asked me if I could do the same thing, but within their business, and develop their single malt division. Because at the time, they were mostly just doing supermarket brands, and that's just as a blender, and didn't own any malt distilleries.
But that changed afterwards.
Exactly, yes. That's when the whole single malt sort of took off, within the market. The market was moving away from blended whiskey and then started to take an interest in single malt.
You worked for a few of them. One of them was Glengoyne. What was like, because you worked for like a little, the Gaelic whiskey shop company, and Alistair Hart, they are all independent bottlers. But then at that point you started working for a distillery. Is it the same or is it quite different?
Well, it was quite similar because when I joined Ian McLeod, so they were a blender, and basically I developed the independent bottling side of their business. So they were into the market with the brands I developed with them, Chieftains, and then we came to the conclusion that to ensure the sustainability of the business, it was important to have a distillery. But the owners were quite reluctant at the beginning, because they had always just been whiskey brokers buying and selling casks, and owning a distillery was a different type of business. We managed to convince them that that was the future of the business, and we bought Glengoyne, which was for sale. And it suited the company really well because it was a small distillery. It was like a boutique distillery, which had been neglected by its previous owners and needed a lot of attention, to make the brand a focus in the market. And so it was a great challenge for me to, relaunch that brand in Europe and develop various expressions that would, give it a focus in the marketplace.
I think you did a good job because most people do know Glengoyne at this point. So congratulations.
Thank you. And then, worked on secondary brands like the Six Isles, and then we launched Smokehead, which were, again, sort of independent bottling, but proper brands. And then eventually we bought also Tamdu, and that was a bigger distillery, with the objective of trying to make it the next Macallan. So, you know, because a lot of the stock was matured in Firstville sherry, so that was the next challenge, which again, there was, you know, the decision was what strength. The UK, being a high tax market, wanted 40%, but I fought my corner with the marketing and the sales people to say Europe needed 43%, because you need that structure even within sherry to get the proper flavors. I do believe that is the perfect strength and above, for special bottlings for Tamdu.
Yeah. And then 2016, you started again with House of McCallum.
Yes.
Why? Were you tired working for somebody else, or you wanted to do your own thing, or?
Yeah, I think I had done, in 16 years there, I had done the work I needed to do, which was to build up the malt portfolio within the business, and then it becomes mainstream. And I'm not really a mainstream person. When I joined the company, the turnover was quite small, and then we were in the larger league, with 2 distilleries and one that we're going to buy, Rosebank. And so it was time for me to move on, go back to less mainstream and more craft, which is what I enjoy to do. So that's why I decided to revive House of McCallum and develop some brands of my own.
Yeah. 4 years later, you're still going, so obviously doing something good. What's your favorite bottling up till now?
I always say you can't really choose one bottling, because I would say probably the McPink is the one where I try to achieve something new, something novel, and the objective was both in terms of design and also in terms of flavor profile. I was trying to attract a younger audience to whiskey, but also to prove that blended whiskey can be good.
Yeah.
Most people have a negative image of blended whiskey. Despite the fact most of my products are single malts, I wanted to show that you can create something good, and it tastes like a single malt, but being a blended whiskey.
Yeah.
And I think I achieved that with McPink. The whole inspiration started in my bedroom.
Okay.
Don't worry, this conversation is not becoming X-rated. It's just the picture which is on the label of McPink, which is a painting by Ashley Cook, is in my bedroom. And when I wake up in the morning, I see it. And I love this picture, of Mary Stuart in a pink kilt. And one morning when I woke up, I said, I really need to create a whiskey that is an image of this, piece of art, but also that is going to reflect in terms of flavor. So the whiskey had to be pink, because also pink I thought was the new color in terms of alcohol. And I think, I was right, because since then you've got pink gin and pink other drinks. And it was to give a younger image as well, but that art was younger, and it was to bring younger drinkers, lady drinkers, into the category of whiskey. So make it slightly sweeter, round, and easy to drink.
Yeah.
And the test was when I was at a show, an event in the border with Switzerland, and there were 4 young guys who were, 18 or 19, came to the show thinking there was rum and whiskey. And apparently they were telling people, no, we don't like whiskey. They tried different tables with different brands. And I also have one rum in my Art of Whiskey, the Mac Explorer. So the guy sent them to my table to try the rum. And I said to the guys, no, before you try the rum, I want you to try McPink. No, they said, we don't like whiskey. I says, no, McPink isn't whiskey. I says, it's McPink. So they tried it and they loved it. And actually they left with a bottle of the rum, the Mac Explorer, and a bottle of McPink. So I managed to change these guys from disliking whiskey to actually liking whiskey. So I believe, I achieved the goal.
Yeah, you achieve your goal. You're talking about image and trying to get to the younger people, but you're known for and I like it, by the way, wearing a kilt that shows being a perfect Scottish gentleman. Does that pair up with being trying to get along with a younger audience?
Well, I think it is, because actually the kilt I wear is a designer kilt. So it's from a young Scottish designer, Siobhan Mackenzie, and she's the top Scottish designer currently for clothing. She also designed the equipment for the Scottish Commonwealth team back a couple of years ago. And so she's trying to give a more modern image to the kilt. And I think that's the image I'm trying to show, is that you can be traditional but also modern in terms of what you do. And that's the whole concept of the Art of Whiskey. So
I really like the concept, by the way, because I really like the way you dress, so I'm a big fan.
So you see, that's the new McPink, which is maybe again a more traditional image, but that's because the Declaration of Arbor 1320, and is quite traditional. But at the same time, if you take the Warrior, there is a much more, again, artistic interpretation of the Declaration.
These will be available in Belgium and Holland very, very soon.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks. And there's only 700 bottles, so that each number is 1 to 700.
Okay, so they have to be quick.
Yeah.
Okay. You sent me another picture, this one. Can you tell us something more about it?
So this is one of my 4 artists. This is Archibald Dunbar McIntosh, who is my mum's cousin. So he's a very, very famous Scottish artist. And he's also a whiskey lover. It runs in our family. So his name is not McCallum, because my grandfather was the only boy in the family. My great-grandparents had 1 boy and 7 daughters.
Okay.
So there were 7 daughters, and they continued to try till they have a boy. So all of my mum's cousins are all don't hold the name McCallum.
So you're at this point one of the last with the McCallum name. Yeah.
So Archie's art is on both the McElligans and the Mac of the Isles.
Okay.
Mac of the Isles, so that's the new edition.
Yep, that's perfect.
Yeah. And this one is a combination of, it's a 12-year-old, and it's again a blended malt, but it's a blended malt from Orkney, so which means it's Highland Park with some Scapa.
Okay, and that's very unusual, because there are a lot of Scapas available when they're not called Scapa. So okay.
Yeah. And it's been specially matured in a Burgundy wine cask, Corton Renardès. And again, I'm trying to bring back the flavors you used to have in the whiskey a long, long time ago. You know, at the time, if we go back to 1320, Scotland was linked to France. So the wine that we used to drink was wine from France, and when the barrels were empty, they used to get filled with whiskey. So that was the type of cask we used to use then. Again, the relationship with the Burgundy is because the Pope used to live in Avignon, and in his summer place was in Burgundy. That's why you have like a wine that's called Châteauneuf-du-Pape, because that was where one of his castles was, and he used to drink that wine. And the Declaration of Arbroath, after it was signed and sealed by all the clan chiefs, was sent to the Pope in Avignon. But obviously, at the time, he was drinking Burgundy wine, his own wine. So that's why I decided to use that type of cask for these special releases.
Okay, you did your research. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I like history. I mean, you know, it's one of my strong subjects, and I like to bring it in terms of the development of whiskey as well. Yeah. Because a lot of people think, you know, oh, sherry's the best, port's the best, but that wasn't traditionally used till much later, you know, for maturing whiskey.
Okay, we learned a lot this evening. So, Antony, can you tell us something more about not especially the new bottlings, but maybe further on? Is there coming out something new when you say you have to watch out for this one? This one going to be epic.
I am working on something, which will be again something new within the Scotch whisky category. It won't be called Scotch whisky, but that's as much as I can tell you. Again, it'll be, you know, trying to draw a younger audience and a broader audience also to the category of whisky.
Okay, so it won't be a single malt.
No, it won't be.
Okay, that's something to look out to watch out for. Antony, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'm pretty sure everybody had learned a lot about your new bottling, especially the McBain, of course. For the viewers, just so you know, next week we have Dave Worthington from Deputy Gooien in our studio, so I'm pretty curious what that gives. And at this point, Antony, we always end the show with our guest having the last word, so it's all up to you. And I thank you very much for joining us, and I hope to meet you one day in person again, and I'm pretty sure we will do. But at this point, it's all up to you. You have the last word for the viewers. So
continue drinking some good whiskey to beat all these bugs that are going around. And that way, I'll soon be in Belgium again. So, Slàinte mhath.